What do Americans need to know about the Islamist threat that perhaps they're just not getting?
Well, that this threat is beyond real. I personally believe Europe is finished. There is no way Europe can come back. When you have a Muslim population in France, for example, that is producing 4.5 children per family, and then the French citizens are below zero in producing children, it's a matter of time. And they tell us this. It's just a matter of time, we're going to take over. And the same can go for Belgium and for all the other European countries. So I don't see any hope other than God intervention, of course. That would be the one thing that we long for. But I'm hoping that we will look at Europe and realize that this could happen here, regardless of how large a piece of real estate we have in America or have large population. Because once you start terrorizing, people are going to cave in simply out of fear. I'll give you an example. The outgoing head of the BBC was asked a question, and why do you constantly beat on Christians, but when you see Muslims and terrorism, you gloss over it? He said it's no-brainer. If Christians have broad shoulders, they can take it. But if we do that with Muslims, they're going to show up on Oxford Street with grenades and guns and weapons. And so fear, once it settles in the heart of a nation, a handful of people can terrorize a large country like ours. So we, as a church, the Church of Jesus Christ, must wake up and must realize the danger, and that we desperately need either a new Reformation or renew the Reformation call to return back to God. Let me tell you something. I was not born in the West, but I know historically, I've spent many years at Emory University doing a doctorate, historically, that it is the Reformation that brought Europe out of the Dark Ages. It was the Reformation that created Western civilization as we know it today, whether it be education or the hospital movement or the library movement, and the list goes on. It was Western civilization, but that was formed as a result of the Reformation. All of that, when the Reformation theology of belief in the Word of God and the biblical principles upon which a country like the United States was founded, when that foundation starts crumbling, the whole building is going to fall apart.
What is your insight? What do you think this country needs to be looking at as far as immigration goes?
I wrote a major op-ed for the Daily Caller, and I delineate how America has always welcomed immigrants, but you have to come through the front door. And when I came as an immigrant many years ago, I had to provide, even though I really was not working because I was young, tax that I don't owe the country of my origin any taxes, and that I had to go through physical examination, not by my doctor, but by the embassy doctor, and I had to provide a police report that I don't have any criminal records. All of these things they cannot do if you just bring floods of people here. And ISIS made it very clear that they are sending thousands upon thousands of their foot soldiers among the refugees. I'm told that there are so many sleeper cells in the United States. And the FBI kept up with them for a while, but they went beyond the numbers they thought they have.
Is it illegitimate for the United States to impose an ideological test?
Absolutely not. Just find any other country. I mean, there's no country in the world that would not protect its borders. This is insanity. It's madness. Either people, I have to believe, they hate America and want to destroy America, or have other motives, which it can only be evil. Because the scripture is very clear. In Romans 13, it says that the government is to protect the citizenry. They're not to get involved in, it doesn't talk about anything else, education or that or the other thing. It's to protect that's the number one job, is to protect the citizens of the country. And unfortunately, those people who claim to believe the Bible in leadership, they're not obeying that part of the Bible.